Hi everyone, I am Sneha, co-founder and CEO of DevCompass, and I am back again with another video, this time something called as context isolation, which I have literally hinted about in the previous video when we started discussing multi-agent architecture. So if you haven't watched that video, it's time you head back and then come back here. And for everyone else who has no idea of all these jargon words, please head over to our website devcompass.ai and you will get all the relevant information. So we've come so far in the course, from single agent, from prompts, from context window to multi-agents, and now discussing about what can cause a multi-agent architecture to fail, right? So let's get started. Let's talk about context isolation, the mistake every multi-agent developer makes first. So here's a mistake I want you to make mentally right now before you make it in the code. You're building a multi-agent pipeline. The coordinator receives a customer query and a customer ID. It spawns a search sub-agent and passes it the task. The search sub-agent runs, it finds relevant results, it returns them. The coordinator synthesizes. Everything looks fine until you check the synthesized output and realize the source URLs are gone. The document names are gone, the dates are gone. The sub-agent found the right information, but by the time it reached synthesis, the provenance had been stripped. That's context isolation failure, and let's understand exactly why it happens. The fundamental rule of context isolation, let me change the slide, is, and I want you to read it and let it settle before we go further, that each agent in a multi-agent system has its own context window. What the coordinator knows, the sub-agent does not automatically know. What the sub-agent discovers, the coordinator does not automatically synthesizes that. Information does not flow between agents on its own. It must be explicitly passed. So look at the three boxes in the diagram. Coordinator on the left, sub-agent in the middle, coordinator again on the right after the sub-agent returns. The coordinator's context window contains the system prompt, the original user query, and the customer ID. That's all it has. It spawns the sub-agent and passes it a task. The sub-agent's context is completely separate. It has its own system prompt, the task the coordinator gave it, and whatever it discovers while running. Tool results, retrieved documents, found data. None of this is visible to the coordinator while the sub-agent is running. When the sub-agent completes and returns its output to the coordinator receives exactly what the sub-agent chose to include in its response. No more. If the sub-agent summarized its finding and dropped the source URLs, the coordinator never had those URLs to begin with. If the sub-agent flattened structured data into plain text, the coordinator receives the plain text. The coordinator cannot reach into sub-agent's context and retrieve what was dropped. It's gone. It's just gone. So let me just show you the broken pipeline and then a fixed one. So the coordinator spawns a search sub-agent with a task. The search sub-agent runs its tools, finds a policy document, retrieves the source URL, notes the publication date, pulls the relevant section. All of that information is in the sub-agent's context. Now, the sub-agent returns its output to the coordinator. But look at what the output contains. Just the text of the policy, plain text. No source URL, no document name, no date. The sub-agent summarized what it found and considered that the job was done. The coordinator now synthesizes a response using this output, so synthesis is correct. It reflects what the policy says. But when the customer asks where does it say that, or when an auditor asks for the source, the coordinator has nothing. The URL was never passed. It's in the subagent's context history, which is now closed. The information did exist and it was found correctly, but was discarded at the handoff. Now look at the right diagram, which is a fixed version, same pipeline, same subagent task, but now the subagent is explicitly instructed to return a structured object, not a plain text summary. The output contains the policy text and the source URL, the document name, the publication date. Every piece of provenance is explicitly preserved in the return value. Thus, the coordinator receives all of it. When it synthesizes, the source attribution is available. The fix is not complex. It's a change to what the subagent is actually instructed to return. But it requires understanding that subagent must be told to preserve this information, so it will not do so automatically. Now, the 3 specific bugs that causes context isolation failures, and those are the ones that walkthrough is going to ask you to diagnose in a broken pipeline. So look at each card. First, metadata stripped in the subagent. This is what we just saw in the pipeline diagram. The subagent did find a document with a URL, a name and a date, but it returns the text only. The metadata was in the subagent's context. It was found, it was real, but it was never included in the return value. The fix would be that instruct the subagent explicitly to include metadata fields in its output. Don't assume that it will automatically do it. Tell it exactly what to return. Bug 2. Results flattened to plain text before synthesis. A subagent receives and retrieves structured data, a list of orders, each with an ID, a status, a date. It returns this as a narrative sentence. The customer has 3 orders, all shipped. The coordinator receives a string. It can extract the individual order IDs. It can check the dates. The structure was there. It literally can't do all of these. The structure was there. The subagent saw it, but it was collapsed into a prose before handoff. What would be the fix? Specify the output format in the task prompt. Tell the subagent to return a list of objects, not a narrative. Bug 3. No format specified for the subagent output. This is the root cause behind bugs 1 and 2. When you don't tell a subagent what format to return its output in, it uses judgment. Sometimes that judgment is good. Sometimes it summarizes. Sometimes it narrates. Sometimes it preserves structure. The behavior is non-deterministic. The same word from video 1. The fix: always specify the output format in the task that you give to the subagent. Explicitly every time. That is what is going to save you a lot of time from all these buggy responses. Now, let me show you what a well-structured subagent task prompt will look like versus a poorly structured one. So on the left side, we have a vague task. Search for the return policy for damaged items and summarize what you find. That's a real instruction that a developer like you and me might write. What does Claude do with it? It searches, it finds something, it summarizes what the summary contains, whether it includes the source, whether it preserves the date, whether the format is parsable by the coordinator, is entirely up to Claude's judgment. If it does, it does. If it doesn't, it doesn't. You're hoping it makes the right call. That's the non-determinism problem again. But on the right side, which is an explicit task, same objective but with very clear 3 specific additions. First, a required output format, a JSON object with specific named fields, text, source URL, document name, date. Second, an explicit instruction that if any field is not available, return null, not a narrative explanation, not a blank, null. Third, an instruction not to summarize or paraphrase the policy text. Return the relevant section verbatim. Okay. Every one of those additions is going to work and will do its magic. The output format tells Claude exactly what to return. The null instruction prevents fabrication. We will come back to that later in stage 4 when we cover extraction schemas. The verbatim instruction prevents the coordinator from receiving a summarized version that might have lost important nuances. So when you write a task for a subagent, write it the way you would write a function specification. Tell it exactly what to return. Treat the subagent's output as the return value of a function and specify that return type. Don't let it to come to a guesswork and then do the tasks. So in this video we talked about how there can be context isolation between subagents. Information must be explicitly passed between agents. It does not automatically happen. 3 bugs: metadata stripped, results flattened, no output formats specified. And third, super important, write subagent tasks like function specs. Define exactly what to do. So now you know why context isolation failures happen and how to fix them at the task design level. The next video is going to get into the mechanics of how coordinators actually spawn those sub-agents. So you see, we are moving step by step. First, we're like, oh, we need a multi-agent. Second, what issues can happen in multi-agent? And now when we know that there's a coordinator, there are sub-agents, then how is the whole mechanism working? The task tool, what it does, and how to use it correctly. So I will see you in the next one.